It's time to jump right back into the murder mystery itself in Stargirl Season 3. So if you haven't seen Episode 3 yet, we're going to be talking spoilers, so save this video for later, come back to it once you've seen the episode so we can discuss what the hell is going on. I think this episode started off really well. It's showing us that Sylvester is trying to be a normal person. Even though he's always been Starman, he's trying to find his identity in this new world after he's been resurrected and got a second chance at life. And I find it funny that he's walking through this town and everyone's like, hey neighbor, how's it going? So everyone has recognized him now and kind of knows who he is. And he also tells Yolanda when they're at the diner that Ted would be proud of who she is and would accept her. Because he sees that her and Ted are a lot alike. So he thinks that Ted would accept her as Wildcat, which I think is pretty awesome. And that gives Yolanda a little bit more confidence as a superhero as well, that her predecessor would have liked her. And on top of it, while Sylvester's walking around, there's a sign behind him and it says, "A killer calls," which I think is a subtle reference to maybe Sylvester being the actual true killer. But we'll talk about theories at the end. I really like the Crocs in this episode and how Sportsmaster and Tigress are both trying to be better people. You have Paula becoming best friends with Barbara during this, and I'm really enjoying their dynamic too, because Paula's going to Barbara for advice. You know, she talks about having to now do the speech at this new members for the club that she's joined, and Barbara's like trying to help her out, but Barbara has all this work to do because of the fact her stupid coworker Tim keeps shutting down all her ideas. And I like at the very end where Paula goes and threatens him, because I knew that was coming. As soon as she saw him and called him a geek, I'm like, oh, she's going to go teach him a lesson. But I like how when Paula goes to give that speech at her meeting, when Barb shows up, she gets the confidence to do it. So they're slowly becoming BFFs, and I like it. I like their dynamic. But the Crocs in this episode were pretty goddamn cool, and you get to learn a lot more about them. I like how they just barge into the Whitmore-Dugan household and bring healthy breakfast for everyone and join the family morning, which is just fun. I'm really liking them, and I like them in this show. And I really like how the parents are becoming best friends with each other. That ends up going down a really dark path later because we find out that they were being blackmailed by the gambler, which leads into a whole other can of worms, because when the JSA finds this out, Sydney goes and tells Sylvester, who they specifically told her not to do because he's going to lose his shit. And guess what he does? He loses his shit. He gets Cosmo, takes him to the Crocs, who are just shopping in a grocery store in town, in this small little town. He goes and attacks them in the open with civilians all around, causing mass amounts of damage and almost killing the Crocs. It was a pretty cool fight scene. There was a couple things where like you have Tigress like kind of like pushing off something, and you could tell she's being pulled by a cable, but that's okay. It's a comic book show, so if it feels like a comic book, I'm a happy camper. But when Starman tries to kill her, Starman's in full rage mode. He's about to kill them, but it takes Pat arriving last second to stop him, and he even points the staff at Pat, threatening him, because he's protecting the villains. And Starman is kind of off the rail, and this is where I'm going to have my theory coming in later. And I like how the Crocs come clean after that, because they have to prove that they're innocent so they don't get in shit. So they tell Pat, Courtney, and Barbara that they were being blackmailed by Gambler, but before Gambler died, he transferred all the money back to them. So the Gambler was actually trying to be good, which is kind of funny in the end. The Gambler was still trying to be a good person, even though everyone was still doubting him, but Courtney was like, I was right. So Courtney's still going to look into the villains and try to see the best in them, and I like that. I like trying to redeem the villains because, you know, they're not always entirely evil. Sometimes they just get sucked into a bad situation. Now let's talk about Cameron and Courtney in this episode. So you can see that Cameron is becoming a total dickhead. He's being a huge ass. His powers, I think, are changing him into being this more evil person. Like, he has a heart as cold as ice, where he's just going to be, the ice is changing him. It has to be. And you can tell he's getting control of his powers because his evil grandparents are definitely doing it. But you can see he's going down a dark path. He's not doing his homework. He's being an asshole to everyone. He was ignoring Courtney. And I like when he turns around and gets angry at the teacher who's trying to help him. Rick steps in and confronts him and calls him an asshole. And you can really see that Rick and him are going to have a 1v1. There's going to be Our Man versus Icicle Jr. It's going to be a pretty cool fight, and I can't wait for it. Then you see Cameron using his icicle power to pop a hole in Rick's car. It's not going to end well. And at the very end of the episode, he apologizes to Courtney for being a jerk, but I don't think he's actually meaning it. I think that Cameron's actually turning around, and he's still I think he knows that the JSA killed his father. And I think he's using Courtney to manipulate her to try to either get her to change sides because he actually does care about her, or he's manipulating her and is gonna try to kill her. But we'll see what happens in the next episode, because that's probably when everything's gonna happen. One of the things I did like about this episode too is how Sylvester is talking about trying to find work, and he can't because he's been dead. He doesn't know what to do. He's always been Starman. So he's like, how did all the other JSA members get work? And then I like how Pat's like, well, Our Man's a chemist. Dr. Midnight was a surgeon, and Green Lantern had a broadcasting company. So, like, they had actual jobs outside of being heroes, but Starman never did. And he has to figure out how to come to terms with that and figure out, who he wants to be. Because you could even tell during the episode, he doesn't know who he wants to be, and he's still in that mindset for when he was back in his GSA days, because he still sees Pat as a sidekick. And he even gets mad. He fucking yells at Pat for saying that he shouldn't be doing anything because he's the sidekick. And I'm like, no, Pat is the goddamn other hero. He is not a sidekick. This grown-ass man is not a sidekick, not anymore. And I even like how Pat stands up for himself. It's like, I'm not a sidekick. That's not how this works. And that's true. Because you tell me Stripes is a goddamn sidekick? Nah, goddamn, that guy's a full-fledged superhero with a giant robot. You don't step on him anymore. And Pat reveals to Sylvester, too, that Courtney originally thought that Sylvester was her father because the staff chose her. And even Sylvester's like, what? Why? And it kind of made him come to realize, like, oh shit, I have this bigger role to play here. I have to be better for Courtney and the other younger heroes because they look up to me as this big hero. And I think that's going to help him a little bit kind of figure out who he is. And I think he'll become more of a mentor to the GSA as he realizes what's going on. But I do understand his anger to Pat for protecting the villains because the villains did kill all his friends. However, if Pat's able to forgive them, not forget anything, but forgive what happened and see that they're trying to be better people, I think they should take that into consideration. Because the Crocs, they weren't the best people. They're definitely not, but they're being better for their daughter. And as long as they're on the right track, I think that's good. Even though, it's like comic books. Villains are going to be good. Villains are going to be bad. People are going to forget about the crimes. It's just how the comic book world works. And even after everything that happened, Pat still went home and made Starman a brand new suit so that Starman could be his hero self again. And I think it's also the fact that he doesn't go and attack people in his regular clothes, so everyone's like, oh, look, it's Sylvester. Makes more sense, but I like Pat's such a good dude, and he gets treated like shit. At the end of the episode, it's also showing that Sylvester is growing as a person because he goes to grab Cosmo to go investigate the crime scene about where the gambler died, and he stops, and he's like, no, it's not my turn. Which is great, because he's showing he's respecting the rules for Courtney, and that he's still, being a better person. He's not just going to go up and over their heads and do whatever the hell he wants because he was the original staff bearer. And when he goes to the crime scene, he's being watched. Well, everyone's still being watched, and I'm pretty sure it's Mr. Bones from last season. It would make sense because they introduced him. Dude, they watch him, and that monster comes back and freaking chucks Starman in the sky. And I thought that at first that he just grabbed Starman and ran, but he actually threw him because you see Starman hit the goddamn trailer and fall over, which I don't think he's dead. There's no way they're going to kill him like that. I think he's going to be injured for sure and probably have no memory of what happened. And I think that's going to cause some drama. And I'm looking forward to it because I still think there's stuff going on. Because this is where we're going to talk about theories. Theories. So first of all, Mr. Bones is definitely not the person that is killing them and attacking them. I think he's using someone as a puppet or, it's his minion doing it. Now, this is where I get into my little middle questions here. So first of all, I think that Sylvester is the one that actually killed the gambler. I think that because he's been resurrected by the staff, which I actually think it was Mr. Bones that resurrected him, but the person that destroyed the trailer and then attacked Starman is a completely different character. I think it's either going to be Grundy or a monstrous being that's being controlled by Mr. Bones. But you might be wondering, how could it be Grundy? We saw that he's still buried. We didn't see that he was buried. We saw a grave that's covered in dirt. What if Mr. Bones went there, took Grundy out, put him in somewhere else so he could be resurrected, and is now controlling him, and put something else, or just filled the hole with more dirt so that it looked like Grundy was still there? Because Rick never went in and ripped him out. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that Grundy is now being used as a monster again to kill the gambler and attack, or to rip open and attack the gambler. Sylvester stabbed the gambler, finishing him off, and then they used Grundy to attack Sylvester at the end of this episode. And that's what I think is going on. And there might be, there's probably another monstrous being that's been doing it, but I don't know which ones I can think about it being. And I'm interested to finding out who it could be. I only think that Mr. Bones is controlling Sylvester because if he resurrected him, that way he could have planted something in his mind to be able to mind control him. And that's what I think is going on. What do you think of my theories? How did you like the episode? Are you liking the series so far? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you like this video, make sure you leave a like and hit the subscribe button for more because I will be covering the show weekly. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.